hand. Seeing if you can hop on. Hey, Rick.
What's up, Megs?
Sorry, I got you on not a side-by-side.
That's all right.
But
that's okay.
We're going to roll with it. So thanks for hopping on.
Of course.
Motivation today. And I briefly kind of explained your background and why I'm wanting to talk about this, because I fully believe that the motivation behind the decisions that we make and the actions that we take get us to where we want to be. And it's what drives us past all of the obstacles that we may face. And so I want to talk with you a little bit about short-term motivation and long-term motivation, and not just what that is, but what it looks like and how our viewers can define that in other people and in themselves, so that they can make sure that they have the right motivation for the goal that they're chasing. So can you talk a little bit about what short-term motivation looks like or sounds like?
Well, I mean, you can go probably 15 different ways with this. I can just say like one variable. The one that comes to mind, the two that come to my mind right out of the gate is a short-term motivation would be get in now, products are cheaper, it's faster over here, loading people up with product, and no real system, right? So they get stuck in recruit mode. There's no long-term system to take them into the promised land, so to speak. It's easy to get people into the network marketing industry. It's very difficult to get them to stay, and they only stay when they're profitable. But if there's no education there, then they won't make it. So the question that comes to mind for me would be, okay, you got them in, but where are you taking them? Where's the vision? What's the long-term vision? Are they hooked into that long-term vision with you? Do they understand what the mission actually looks like for 2020, 2021, 22? Are they hooked into that? When they hook into that, they hook into time strength. And time strength is a very necessary inward might that needs to be developed amongst every entrepreneur, not just in network marketing, but when you're learning any skill set. If you look at a professional athlete, they have time strength. They know they're not going to be able to play professional football in a year, or baseball, or sports. They know that they have to go through the gauntlet for many, many years honing their skill set and their craft, and they give themselves permission to buffet their techniques over and over again, find out what works, what doesn't, and find a way to win.
Yeah. So in terms of network marketing specifically, short-term motivation, to me, when I like, this product is so amazing, this company is brand new, look at what we did in just 1 month, that short-term motivation, you described it perfectly when you said it creates this meat grinder. Can you explain that analogy for people?
Well, yeah, you know, a short-term goal is, I mean, we see people fall to this every day in our industry, right? So let me just point out that, like in our organization, our retention is higher than anything that I've ever seen out there. And you don't know the retention of your organization for about a year, right? And it's so deceptive because when you first come in, it's really fun because all kinds of people want to come with you, and that's exciting, and take them to a new place, or maybe they're new in the business and it's fun. But you have to build somewhere. At some point, you have to build. And that's what they always seem to forget. And only time exposes that. Time is the friend of all the exposing of whether you have a real organization or not. So if you focus on product, right? Well, here's one. Many people don't understand that, they'll go, I want to go to another company because they have more customers and the product's cheaper. Okay. Well, what they don't understand is if the product is half the price of the team you just left or the company you just left, then you need twice the people, right? Lower product costs equal lower commissions. Higher product costs, higher commissions. And people go, well, that's okay. We'll just get quantity instead of quality. Well, that doesn't work for long-term vision because it's only the quality people that stay, right? It's the quality people that are make friends with time. It's the quality people that build a business once,
Yeah.
right? And that's the difference.
Yeah. So what I hear a lot from people when they're frustrated is that, well, they've recruited, 5 people in month one and 8 people in month two and 3 people in month three, and then they had to do it again in month four. They recruited 5 people in month four, but everybody in month one was only short-term motivated, and so
Yeah.
they are they're frustrated because their paycheck is dipping. Um, they're not seeing the success that maybe you saw or that they were promised or that they thought they were going to see. And so you are recruiting steadily every month, but you're losing who you brought in the beginning. And that brings me to long-term motivation. How do you, like, I've been with you for 2 years in Overcome Nation. I know a lot of people are on that similar timeline. They've been in with you since the very beginning. How do you create that long-term motivation um, to build up the retention in your business and that steady success?
Well, helping them to understand exactly what you just said, because you're stacking out networks. So let's just highlight that first. So you come in, you bring in your frontline people, right? So that's your net. You enroll somebody, you tap into their network. So you have one network. Then either they bring in somebody or you bring in somebody. So you have network two, network three. Then you have network four. By the time you get to network five, network one quits. You get to network six, network two quits. So you have this meat grinder, right? Or maybe it's easier for people to understand. It's like this fire that's constantly burning behind you that you cannot outrun, and you have to become a recruiting uh, giant out there recruiting banshee, and that's not where you have the freedom in your time. If you have to constantly recruit, or your business, or because the retention is constantly eroding from the bottom up, then you don't have a business. You don't have a sustainable business. You don't have a real system. You could say you have a system, but the system's not working because your retention is not intact, right? So that's the biggest part of that. So now let's go back to your question. Now rephrase that for me one more time.
How are you creating long-term motivation in
Okay.
your team to
Yeah.
sustain?
So by exposing the things that are necessary to build a long-term business, you have to have a pattern that is established for your team, and that is understanding and applying financial education and letting action be your coach is just one way. Overcome Nation has gotten a reputation for a business school that actually teaches business and financial education, but it is surrounded by so many other facets that contribute to that education, right? They need to learn capacity. They got to figure out a way to win in that. They have to go through the frustrations. They have to give themselves time in order to walk out all the potential problems that come to them and learn how to overcome them. Exposing time strength, that is a real necessary strength. Talking about it. What is time strength? It's fun to roll it off of our tongue, but what is the real definition of time strength? Do the people know it? Here's the other thing is that in every organization, your whole approach needs to teach them so well that they no longer need you, and the way you do that is to turn followers into leaders. If your organization is not turning followers into leaders, you are not going to have an organization that is thriving after year 1.5, year 2.5, year 3.5. You're not. You can tell yourself that you have a wonderful team in the first 6 months, and oh my gosh, it's so much better here, and all this other jargon. But as soon as you hit what year and a half, it's going to really, really expose itself, and it'll already be to the tail end of exposing itself. It won't start then because it started much earlier than that. And if the question everybody needs to ask themselves in their organizations is, am I teaching my team so well that they no longer need me? And am I turning followers into leaders? Every single person in this industry, every person in my organization needs to understand that my goal here is to turn the followers, the people that follow me, into leaders so they no longer need me.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the one thing that seems to be so impossible for all these other organizations that are outside of Overcome Nation in these other companies, because there's an inward hunger that most leaders have. They want to keep their followers. They don't want them to turn them into leaders, because they want to be the person. They want to be the person that makes the most money. They want to be the person at the highest rank. They want all the accolades. And so what happens is it holds them prisoner from real wealth. And wealth is having money and time, right? You can have the money, but you don't have the wealth. Maybe you have riches, but you don't have the wealth. Wealth comes from having both. And until you make that decision, and you find a way to create the curriculum that would teach them to become leaders, it's never going to happen for you. Now, people always get in this business and go, I just want to help everybody. Oh, we're here to just bless a bunch of lives. No, you're not. You're actually not. If you're not going, how can I raise these people up? I can tell that they have a following attitude. I can tell that they're a fan. I don't want them to be a fan of mine. I want them to be a fan of themselves. I want them to see themselves as the main event. I want them to see themselves as a leader. What can I do for them that would teach them so well that when they look in the mirror, they see themselves as a black diamond in the business? They see themselves as somebody that is going to do great things in this industry, instead of, can I take a picture with you? Can I have your autograph? Right? We don't do that in Overcome Nation, and that takes time. So there has to be a respect for the time stamp. There needs to be a respect for the time strength in every organization if it wants long-term freedom. The short-term stuff is nothing. Everyone wants to take a snapshot of their little short-term check, right? If I show somebody my checks, which I rarely do, and I make sure that I put it into make sure they understand that I work my ass off for that, and this is what you have to do and all that, because I'm not here to entice anyone, but I show them all the checks. Mm-hmm. Because you show me 1 or 2 or 3 months, that's nothing. Show me the whole body of of your growth and how it worked the whole way. People want to take a snapshot and go, oh my God, I'm so glad that I made the decision. I'm so glad that I'm here. Yeah, talk to me this time next year when you have to go to work.
Yeah, and one of the things that is important to decipher is the difference between a leader and we can get a lot of people into our organizations or other organizations that can come in and produce a high volume. But exactly like what you're saying, what are they doing a year from now? Once their warm market has dried up, or once their family and friends have got tired of purchasing from them every month, or when they hit a wall. Because to me, producers can do well and shine bright and make great social media posts, but leaders walk through the rigors of business. And when they hit a wall, they work to climb over it or go through it or, overcome it. They don't just, well, this isn't working anymore. Everything that I learned is not true. I was lied to. Mm-hmm. So how do you create a system, or I guess maybe expand on the system that you created for people to come to when they are feeling broken and defeated, and when they are feeling maybe like they're questioning themselves? What do we have in Overcome Nation that they can fall back on for that?
Well, they're getting the solid foundation, but there's a part of me that goes, maybe we should make it more difficult for people to get into Overcome Nation. Mm-hmm. I mean, to be honestly speaking, this being more transparent and telling people, what, this is a tough, education is tough. This is, you're probably going to want to ring out. Look how many people want to become Navy SEALs that don't make it, right? They produce 800 contracts a year out of thousands, tens of thousands of people that want to be a Navy SEAL, and they're all ringing out, and, I would never even dare to say that Overcome Nation is anything like a Navy SEAL, but when it comes to business, this is not an easy course to learn, and maybe we should start vetting people, because people need to learn how to build influence. They need to learn how to take risks. It's interesting, people will come into a program and they'll learn all the education, but they won't go out and turn it into action the way they should. They won't fight to find a way to win. And so Then they leave the organization, they go somewhere else, and all of a sudden they become risk takers for a month, right? And you're like, why didn't they do that here?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so the other thing is that they do. I mean, I don't know if in the Navy SEAL program they go, if they don't make it, they badmouth the Navy SEAL program. They still have a tremendous amount of respect for it. They just couldn't make it. And that's really the way it is over here. I mean, I'm really shocked at the amount of people that when they leave our organization, and all we do is try to help them and pour into them. And you see it over and over and over hours. I mean, I agonize over pouring into people. I want everyone to win. But then when they leave, they become trash talkers. And I'm like, why? All we did was pour into you to teach you and do all that. But I think what's happening in programs like this is when they can't make it and they see other people make it, it gets them very envious and jealous that other people are making it work for them because they are doing what it takes and they are not. So when they leave, they feel defeated and they won't admit it. So it comes out in another area, right? It comes out in another way, right? So I won't say to somebody, this is for you. A person has to figure out whether they're willing to fight to do, because there's no program like this in this entire industry. There really isn't. And there's no payout that's better than ours in this industry either, because it actually pays. And there's companies out there that will say, oh yeah, we pay out 85%, 90%. Well, I'm talking about compensation plans that actually pay. There's a lot of compensation plans out there that say we give out this much, maybe 80%, 80. I saw one the other day, said 85%. But it doesn't actually pay out that much, right? It don't, because there's so much breakage in it, it doesn't actually pay. It says we offer it, but it doesn't pay it because there's so many hoops. I mean, our compensation plan is actually paid out 73% last week. Paid out 73%. So I would tell people, going back to your question, is that, are you sure you have what it takes? Are you willing to put in the time? If you think that you're going to, make a six-figure income in your first year, that's probably not going to happen unless you are really taking action and really going through the chapters of capacity in your life, right? What am I weak at? Let's fix that. Where am I not taking risks in my organization? I need to be doing that. A risk a day. I need to be taking a risk a day, right? Most people don't do that. And many times, you see a lot of really intelligent people that are highly intellectual, highly educated, that don't make high incomes in life, even if they're an employee, right? Because they have all this education, but they're not applying it, right? And you become like puffed up. You know what I'm saying? Some of the most arrogant people you ever met in your life are so damn smart, but they can't rub two pennies together, right? Because they're not taking that education and putting it into action, and it happens in organizations, and it's very sad. So I would spend more time vetting them and asking them, are you sure that you want to do this? Are you sure you're ready to build a business, not a hobby, but build a business? If you find that you are wanting to build a network, there are those that have a network and they come in and they accelerate because they already have one. They spent years building a network. And then there are those that don't build a network until they need a network. So are you ready for that? Because that actually requires more work than a person that's already has one. So when you're looking at somebody else that moves through the ranks faster than you, understand that they've already had a network. Don't let it discourage you. But it's not going to change your workload. That means that you have more capacity that you have to learn than another person. Are you ready for a program like that? Do you really want to